It turns out I'm still not done talking about Joker. Last night I uploaded my initial post-movie thoughts and lost 0.01% of my subscriber base and thought the channel was going to collapse in on itself. Had a panic attack, took the video down, put up a clarification, and then this morning just cooler heads prevailed. I've put the video back up for you all to see my initial thoughts. The oppressed gamer uprising has not defeated me yet. But there is a lot to talk about with this film, to be honest. It's quite a big movie in that regard. It's had a lot of big reactions from people. It's been something that's kind of seen as very unique in its own way. And I've had some pretty lengthy discussions about this film with those who kind of liked it and those who were kind of a bit more lukewarm on it like I am. Now, the truth is, going into Joker, I am a huge fan of the 70s crime and psychological thriller genre. As well as that, I'm a huge fan of the Joker. So it's kind of like this film was kind of made for me, kind of made to please me in a way. And I've always thought there's kind of a lot you can do with a Joker movie. You can do things like A Clockwork Orange, which is a 70s crime thriller. You could take it down a route a bit like Goodfellas, which is like a 70s-esque crime thriller movie. And heck, even if we go beyond the 1970s, crime movies are just my jam. Fargo, A Simple Plan, Snatch, Silence of the Lambs. I love classic crime thrillers. I love stories about guys throwing themselves into the abyss. If any of you have ever seen the first season of the Fargo TV series, it's all about an innocent man called Lester Nygaard who's kind of bullied by society, who throws himself into the abyss, and it's probably one of the best things I've ever seen on TV, in my opinion. The same goes for the second season of Fargo, which takes place in the 1970s, which adds a whole new level to this crime story. So I always kind of had an air of skepticism about Joker, because it's been a while since I've seen a good film really like these films. I was kind of waiting for the next Goodfellas in a way, and I'd heard what people were saying about Joker, saying it's a masterpiece, saying that the film is pure art. So I kind of went into it expecting it to be the next Goodfellas, the next Fargo, the next One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, something like that. And the result was I came out quite disappointed. But I think those initial reactions of disappointment did cloud very much of the positive things that I do have to say about the film. Like, the Joker, I admire the heck out of it for trying to achieve something like a 70s crime thriller. I also admire the heck out of it for trying to remain kind of open to interpretation. I've noticed there's a lot of debate as to what was real and what was going on in Arthur Fleck's head. I've noticed a lot of people saying that the entire movie was just in Arthur Fleck's head, and it was a whole thing that he was recounting memories while in a sponge room. I can appreciate a story that's very open to interpretation, and I feel like the Joker only ever so slightly falls short of greatness. See, here's my angle here. I am so grateful for the filmmaking styles that we have here. I'm grateful that we go back to a 70s style of filmmaking. It feels like an authentic 70s crime thriller movie. It feels that way, and that's great. I love that about it. It's a privilege to see an actor like Joaquin Phoenix stepping into the role of the Joker. That's great to see, and I do like that some real-world logic has been applied to the character of the Joker. And I can appreciate the film wanting to make a statement about how we treat each other. I appreciate the film having kind of a moral of love thy neighbor, because you never know what's going on inside their heads, and one bad day, as they say, is enough to drive the sanest man to lunacy. So I guess kind of just imagine what that could do to someone that was abused as a kid, or someone that's riddled with mental health issues. I think it's important to approach mental health attitudes in society with a critical eye, because that is the truth. And I think my key complaint was that I wanted Joker to kind of treat society's views of mental health issues with honesty and bring us like sort of a balanced argument. You see, to me, and I think a lot of others will agree with me here, the Joker is a curse upon Gotham. He is the worst thing that can come to any city, anywhere. He's bad news. He's a nasty guy. He's a manifestation of everything that is wrong with Gotham. To me, the Joker is like a cancer to Gotham City. And like a cancer, it should be something that you desperately want to stave off. It's gotta be something that you desperately do not want. But in Joker, we're not really seeing the full picture of what Gotham is. We're only seeing it from Arthur Fleck's perspective. So the Gotham City we see is a hellhole. Everyone is awful to Arthur Fleck in this movie. Absolutely everyone. I don't think there is a single person in this film that is innocent. So I don't really feel much towards Arthur Fleck's transformation into the Joker, because I just think, well, it's only logical, it only makes sense, just one more nasty guy to add to the bunch, to be honest. And I feel like that takes away a little bit of what makes the Joker as a character special, and you lose the potential for that to come in the film. Now, I understand that the film is told entirely from the perspective of the Joker, someone who suffers from delusion. So we're not going to get rational for and against arguments regarding Gotham City and society, but I just feel that does become perhaps a little bit repetitive in this movie, and I feel like maybe some other perspectives would have really enhanced this. But I think that's very open for debate. I reckon a lot of people would say that dilutes the experience. It's supposed to be a character study inside a mentally ill person. I just think there are some really creative ways that Joker could have shown us that this film takes place entirely in his head, and that this is all very distorted. I feel like if the film had spent so much as 10 seconds to show us that Gotham City, like anywhere, is not all bad. Be that through some kind of news report of something positive happening in Gotham that we see Arthur Fleck react negatively to, or something else entirely, I would have found Arthur Fleck's story to just be that little bit more credible, personally. But I get why they've done what they've done. It's supposed to be a very distorted worldview. It just means that I don't really get the chance to feel for this character in the way that I hoped to. I think a really cool narrative device that they could have perhaps employed was something that was done in Bronson, where for much of the story we have these little intercut segments where Charles Bronson is standing on stage telling the audience about his perspective of things, and then we segue into that story. Almost like a stand-up routine that the Joker is doing for the real audience that includes you and me. I feel like this could have been a really cool way of illustrating the difference between Arthur Fleck's world and the real world. Perhaps that spells it out too much, but I feel like there's a lot of potential for some really creative narrative devices in there that I just feel they had a big opportunity to capitalize on, and they just kinda didn't. And my main issue with this was kind of how over-explanatory the dialogue can be, especially in the first act of the film where it's setting everything up, is that Arthur basically says, "Is it me or is the world getting crazier out there?" after just being attacked on the streets. I feel like the message of the world doesn't care about Arthur Fleck just gets old kind of quickly, and then they pile it on and they pile it on and they pile it on and they pile it on until he snaps. And that, I don't mind it for being simple, I just mind when it gets a little repetitive, or when they spell it out perhaps a bit too much near the start of the film. And I think that's my main issue here, is the filmmaking, the acting, everything feels like an authentic 1970s crime thriller on the standard of something like Goodfellas. The script, on the other hand, just doesn't, and I think it comes from a perspective of that films like Goodfellas and stuff like that were made not as tentpole releases, but just as films altogether. Joker, while it feels like one of those films, and is designed to feel like one of those films, is still intended to be a tentpole release for Warner Brothers. It is still made with it in mind that this is going to be a big entry to a franchise. It's just that it's not supposed to feel like one, and that's a feeling that I think they can't shake off a little bit, is that there were probably instances where earlier on in writing, maybe the script was a bit more layered than it is with its dialogue, but they had to dial it back a bit because ultimately they still want the general audience to go see it. That's something that a buddy of mine came up with, and I would say that it's probably pretty plausible. But this is the thing, I was fooled. I went into this kind of expecting it to be the next Goodfellas, the next Scorsese film, basically, and it's not that. But to be honest, this doesn't really detract from how remarkable some of this stuff is, like the fact that we've actually got kind of a superhero film in a way that has these amazing acting performances in it that are as amazing as they are, and kind of leans on that more in the way that an old school film would. That's something. That's a big deal. I don't necessarily want Joker 2, I don't want a sequel to this, but I want more like this. I want more 70s crime thrillers. Because I'm hoping that if they try this again, if they do this again, they can maybe refine the script just that little bit more this time. They can give us something that's not quite so dependent on a subject that isn't necessarily going to be appropriate for everybody. I'm a big fan of films like Joker, but I'm just not massively going nuts about Joker. It's a good movie. It's really well made. It's really well acted. It's really well scored. It's great. But I feel that when these certain aspects of a film are so good, it makes it more obvious when the script isn't as good. Everything is working so well together to tell this story, but then there's just the dialogue, which just feels a bit overwritten, in my opinion. It almost kind of feels like a parody of the whole sort of a "this is deep" thing at times, which is where it can start to feel pretentious. If you're a film enthusiast, you'll probably have a lot to take home from Joker. If you've never seen a film like this before, then let this be a gateway. Check out a lot of other films, like the ones I've mentioned in this video. You're gonna have a great time. If you're a fan of Batman and the Joker, it's surprisingly comic book inspired in places. It's a perfectly plausible prequel for, like, say, The Dark Knight, or literally any version of Batman and the Joker if you disregard ages. Overall, Joker is great in my opinion. It's just not excellent. It didn't blow me away in the way that it has others. And if that's the case, if it has blown you away, I'm really happy for you. I'm happy it did. Like, check out other older crime dramas. Trust me, you're in for a great time. This is my problem with the Joker movie. This is my only issue, is it's a film that aspires to be up there with the greats, and it just doesn't quite reach that. And you can see the inspiration clear as day. It's very, very obvious. And you can see that it is made for fans of films like that. But it just doesn't quite reach it, and that bugs the hell out of me. Maybe it doesn't bug you anywhere near as much. Maybe it doesn't bug you at all, in which case, absolutely great. I'm glad that this movie is bringing us a new 70s crime thriller movie. I'm happy with that. I'm so grateful for it. But in the grand scheme of things, I just think, as far as a high art Joker movie goes, The Dark Knight did it just fine. And it's ultimately closer to anything the Joker is than what this film delivers. That's not to say that he doesn't embody all of the necessary characteristics of the Joker, he just doesn't go quite as hard with it. If you want a very serious take on the Joker, The Dark Knight was really always good enough, and it more than still holds the candle for best realistic interpretation of the Joker as far as I'm concerned. And as far as classic crime movies go, I don't think it's up there. But please don't mistake that for me saying it's bad. I think in previous videos, it's quite clear that my disappointment had got the better of me, because no, it's not mediocre, it's not just okay. It has a lot going for it on a lot of levels. There's more about this film that works well than there is that, in my opinion, doesn't. It's just, when you get caught up in that level of hype, it kind of kills it, you know? I guess I put the film on an unfair expectation pedestal, maybe. Which really raises the question, can hype kill a movie? I think it certainly killed it for my initial reaction. But I think, as always, if you're patient and you wait for a cooler head to prevail, it's a different story. But the thing is, not everyone is necessarily going to think about this film as long as I am. Not everyone's necessarily going to sit on it like I am. But I think at the same time, it's quite clear that my opinion of this film is not a popular one. Most people are just going into this and celebrating it, so whatever. Like, we're celebrating cinema with this one. I mean, to be honest, I thought we'd always been celebrating cinema when we were singing the praises of films like Endgame and stuff, because, in my opinion, that's still cinema. It's still proper cinema. There's no such thing as proper and fake cinema. But that's just my 2 cents. Joker, it's a good movie. I don't sit it on a pedestal. It's still got stuff wrong with it, in my opinion. It's not entirely original, then again, what film really is? Overall, I'm not crazy about it, but I like it. It's an enjoyable throwback to the crime movies of yesteryear. It doesn't quite reach those heights, but at the same time, it doesn't really hit any lows either. And as I said, no, I'm not comparing it to the rest of the superhero genre, because it's completely different. There is not really much of a rest of the superhero genre thing going on. Each studio, each director and stuff has their own spin that they bring to it. I think it's pretty crass to imply that the people making this had a vision, whereas the people making Marvel movies don't have visions. I think that's kind of elitist. It's just that it's a nice return to this sort of vision that we haven't seen in a while. Well, anyway, what do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are links to my Patreon and my Discord. And I just wanted to say, sorry to the more loyal followers for at how everything went last night before. I'm still pretty new to the YouTube thing, and when I uploaded my Joker initial reaction video, I panicked a bit when I saw the dislikes were almost 50-50 with the likes at one stage. And then I saw the subscriber numbers starting to drop, and it had dropped down to 30. I was like, I don't want that to drop down anymore. Like, now it's 30. What's next? Is it going to be 100? Is it going to be 200? And when is it going to be 1,000, you know? That's a scary thing for a new YouTuber. Add anxiety to that mix, and you panic, and then you go and remove the video, upload a softer version of it. I think the real thing is, let's just joke about that. It was only a spike, it was always going to stabilize. This video is brought to you by Zentai for all your cosplay needs. Link is in the description below, and they are very cool and good. Cosplay your favorite characters or send in one of your own designs. Affordable prices and very high quality. Made to order and made to measure. But most of all, made to be heckin' awesome, if you couldn't already tell. Guys, can you believe where we are now and where we started? How long ago it was that Channel Pup, or Channel Go even, came about? Because it really wasn't that long when you think about it. Can you believe the amount of support I've received from this community, from all of you subscribing to the channel and everything? It's unreal. It's a dream come true for me. But behind the YouTubers you watch usually comes a bit of a truth, is that they're often dirt poor. Now, I've had the good fortune of being able to grow this YouTube channel and hopefully turn it into a career, but I'm gonna need a little bit of help along the way to even the odds to make ends meet, so that I can use all of the possible time that I have to make videos for you guys, as opposed to doing something mundane for barely enough money to make it worth its while. I've done all that. I've lived that life. The fact is, together we all built Channel Pup. We made it what it is today, and I want to keep the ball rolling on that. I don't ever want to stop doing this, because this is the most gratifying job I've ever had, and I think the most pleasurable hobby anyone could ever have. I don't take any of the support that I receive from you guys for granted, but if in any way you're wondering if maybe you could do a little more for the channel even, then I want to direct you to the Patreon link in the description below. It would mean the world to me to have your support via Patreon. It can help me to make ends meet. It can help me to better my content. It can help me to have more time to really work on this stuff. But you know what? I'm not just going to take your support and run. No way, Jose. In the Patreon, you can access exclusive videos via the Pups Project Room playlist, where you can see different projects that I've been working on or have worked on that have either not made it to YouTube for general viewing or have been cancelled, or, well, you can get a little view of the process that goes behind the Channel Pup videos and productions. As well as that, you tend to get advanced previews of the bigger Channel Pup projects, our tentpole event projects. If you've seen Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man, you'll be aware that that was released on the Patreon first, and 20 days later approximately was released for general viewing on YouTube. That's not the only time I'm gonna do this, but you know what? If you can't do the Patreon or are just not interested in doing the Patreon, I fully understand. Like, it's still a big ask in my opinion, and what counts most is your support. So as always, thank you so much, guys. I've been Channel Pup, and I will think of a better catchphrase next time. Now please leave!